Well, good afternoon to you. It is 3:06 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Buckle in. Chris Bedford will be here at 3:30. He once said, we can't have a president you can punch assassinate. He's right about that, but how do they replace Biden? Is it even possible? Chris Bedford, again, joining us this hour. Brett Tolman, former U.S. attorney, joins us at 4:30 today. Mary Rook from the Daily Caller talks to us about Lady McBiden at 5 o'clock. And then Scott Walker, the former governor of Wisconsin, the head of Young America's Foundation, joins us here at 5:30. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Well, it's happening. As we speak, Democrats are turning very rapidly on the leader of their party, Joe Biden. At least the mascot for their party. They're done with him. Now you're getting members of Congress coming out calling for Biden to step down. Lloyd Doggett. I knew it was going to be Doggett. It's always Doggett. Congressman Lloyd Doggett on Tuesday. Yes, of course, I know. You're like, who? Yeah, I know. On Tuesday, he became the first sitting Democrat lawmaker to call on President Joe Biden to withdraw from the presidential race. CNN describes this as a huge moment for the Democratic Party, as Doggett says publicly what many lawmakers and elected officials have been speculating about privately. Quote, I represent the heart of a congressional district once represented by Lyndon Johnson. He says, under very different circumstances, he made the painful decision to withdraw. President Biden should do the same. He's not alone. There's others. There's Democrats who are raising concerns. Quigley's doing it. You know, Congressman Mike Quigley of Illinois. Again, you're like, who? Yeah, I'm just telling you, this is a real Democrat congressman, Mike Quigley, out on CNN today, expressing that it may be time. It may be time to give Joe Biden the hook. He's got to make that decision for himself, though. Quigley's not quite so willing to say, now's the time he's got to do it. And then there's Pelosi. You've heard her name before. Pelosi's tact now is, well, she's sharpening the knife. That's what's happening. Nancy Pelosi went on television today to declare that Joe Biden may have a mental condition. Yep. You can see where this is going. Here, listen to Nancy Pelosi. She tries to wrap this pill in peanut butter for the left, but I'm telling you, she's going after Biden here.
So we have all these things that he was masterful in helping to orchestrate, to write, and to pass. So he has a vision, he has knowledge, he has judgment, he has a strategic thinking, and the rest.
That's all throat clearing. Get ready.
He has a bad night. Now, again, I think it's a legitimate question to say, is this an episode or is this a condition?
Is this, she almost chokes on the words, a condition? That is not an accident. Nancy Pelosi doesn't do stuff like that. Not at all. No, that's the legit thing. Pelosi is shivving right now Joe Biden on national television on a place that the left likes, MSNBC. Is this a condition, she asks. She offers a suggestion. Biden should be forced to sit down for some interviews.
I think my recommendation to is for him to have some interviews with serious journalists. You among them, a serious journalist.
Andrea Mitchell?
No holds barred. Any questions here?
That would be a no holds barred interview with Andrea Mitchell.
And just sit there and be Joe. Show your value, show your knowledge, show your judgment, show your empathy for the American people. And I think that would be a great thing for him. Not one, maybe two, a couple of those. I think that is essential.
She's laying a trap for him. She knows how that's going to go. It's not going to go well, even in a tightly controlled environment. In fact, we get an opportunity to see what this might look like, kind of, this week. The White House just announced minutes before we went to air that Joe Biden is going to be sitting down with George Stephanopoulos, former Clinton communications guy. He's going to be sitting down with George Stephanopoulos on Friday. They're going to tape the interview. This is not live. They will tape the interview. It will air Sunday over the long holiday weekend, of course. It'll air. So taped, holiday weekend, tightly controlled environment, Democrat political operative. We'll see how it goes. Now, the only wild card in all of this is what role are the Clintons playing? Will George Stephanopoulos be serving as a sort of hitman in order to help compel Biden's exit from the top of that party? Possible. We'll see. We'll see. But here, let me finish with Nancy Pelosi. So, in case you're wondering, maybe she's just looking out for Joe. No. In fact, Nancy Pelosi today called for a cognitive test for Joe Biden.
We should be tearing up what he said the other day because it was a pack of lies.
She's talking about Trump.
And it's very hard to debate somebody when you have to undo or debunk everything they're saying. But again, arguably, I think that both candidates owe whatever test you want to put them to in terms of their mental acuity and their health.
Cognitive tests. Now, again, it's not shocking that she'd be like, but Trump should have a cognitive test. She said the other day on TV, she's like, Trump has dementia. That was her defense at first of Biden, which is ludicrous. But here she is saying Biden needs a cognitive test. Nancy Pelosi is suggesting that he deserves a cognitive test. Where do you think this is all going? Now, in addition, now things are so chaotic at the White House, and the left is so quite clearly out to throw Joe Biden out of office at this moment, that Hunter Biden has taken over the country. MSNBC is reporting today. Ken Delanian and the whole crew over there at NBC. They're reporting now that Hunter Biden is sitting in on all of the meetings and helping Joe run them. Listen to this.
Breaking news, we're now learning that Hunter Biden is attending some of the president's meetings at the White House, staying close to his father.
By the way, can every storyline that the right has been sharing with you over these past few years finally be proven as true? We've been talking about these things endlessly, and the left is always like, that's crazy, that's a conspiracy theory, that Hunter would be involved in the business of the United States of America.
Biden is attending some of the president's meetings at the White House, staying close to his father post-debate. NBC's Monica Alba is reporting from Washington, D.C. What more can you tell us, Monica?
Well, these are new details coming into our team, Chris, along with my colleagues Kristen Welker, Mike Memley, and Sarah Fitzpatrick. We have learned from sources familiar with the situation at the White House that Hunter Biden has been...
I love the way she's delivering it, too, is with gravity. Sources familiar with the situation.
...by his father's side ever since they were at Camp David this weekend as a family, where they had some discussions about the president's potential path forward here and his re-election campaign, and that since he returned from Camp David last evening with his father, we understand that Hunter Biden has even joined some meetings and conversations that have taken place between the president and some of his most senior advisors and senior staff. And while we should note that it's not unusual for Hunter Biden to be at the White House, to be in the residence, to be attending certain White House events, which
we have
leaving
cocaine all about the place,
certainly seen time and time again over the last 3.5 years, where we have seen photos of him and where he has appeared in public.
We've seen those.
It is unusual, according to the people we spoke with, for him to be participating at this level and to have the sort of regularity of some of these contacts and conversations.
Usually he just sits right outside the door within earshot and yells out suggestions.
Senior staff, we understand, again, since returning yesterday from Camp David, where they were more huddled as a family, to now as the president has resumed some of his more traditional meetings at the White House with those key advisors.
All right, so there's some essential questions here. Do we really have a convicted felon calling the shots at the White House now? Isn't the case that the Biden people are trying to make is you don't want the convict to be the president? Really? So why is Hunter the president right now? Why did that happen? Hunter Biden was just convicted weeks ago of gun charges. He was just convicted weeks ago. It's totally fine. He can run White House meetings now. Also, does he have a security clearance? Do we know anything about that? Wasn't Hunter kicked out of the military for cocaine use back in 2014? Oh, yeah, he was. He was. That did actually happen. What is even happening? Chaos. Now, Karine Jean-Pierre is in the midst of a press briefing as we speak. And, boy, you know, the media, the knives are out. They're out now. They've decided this is not good for long-term Democrat power. Let's get rid of Joe. I've queued up the audio for you just moments ago. Kelly O'Donnell at NBC asking these questions.
Is anyone in the White House hiding information about the president's health or his ability to do the job day to day?
Absolutely.
Yes, the White House press corps is the answer to your question. They've been hiding this information from the people.
Given the fact that it's more than
Sorry,
a
I stepped on the answer. She said absolutely not.
At night when his political future is threatened. Would he be willing to provide more medical information? Would he be willing to have Dr. O'Connor provide more to answer these questions?
Where were these questions before?
Look, Kelly-O, certainly understand the question, appreciate the question, but what we have provided has been very transparent.
But it's
Has
not
been,
recent.
has
And
been.
the Country Watch.
But February was this year. It wasn't too long ago. It was indeed this year.
Oh, how
and
stupid.
we provided transparent.
A letter. They sent a letter. They were like, here's a piece of paper. That's good enough. Where's the doctor? How come the reporters have not been badgering the White House for that guy, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, for a chance to ask him some questions about the president's health? He doesn't seem well. Can we speak to him, please?
A thorough
There were
report.
many Americans who were concerned about his capacity. Was he okay? What happened? And we've now gone several days where he has only done teleprompter comments. He has not taken questions. I know you've announced a press conference. We
Yeah.
appreciate that. An interview. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
But there is a period of time here where the public is trying to understand what happened. And the president could help to answer that by engaging with us in an unscripted way right now.
So let me just say a couple of things. There's a couple of things that you said that I do want to address.
Okay, address them.
Number one, less than an hour after the debate, he went and he engaged directly with the American people.
Yeah, at a Waffle House. Didn't he have a cold? Why did you do that?
He went to a watch party. He was in a room with hundreds of supporters who watched
He
the
had a
debate.
cold, you said.
And when he walked in, they cheered him on. And he did a photo line with them. For
You
some
answered all the questions, Joe.
time. Some of your colleagues had an opportunity to speak to these supporters.
Yeah.
He did that. And that was something that he was able to do right after. And then we stopped at a Waffle House, as some of you all know, and spoke to a packed restaurant. So he spent some time there. Then the
Waffle
next
House.
day, he went to North Carolina, spoke in front of hundreds of supporters there.
You know,
He
I just
said-
realized today, I regret that for, I don't know how much time we have left with Corinne, just in terms of her doing that job or Biden even being in the White House. But I just realized today, I was like, man, we really missed an opportunity with the theme music for this lady.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies.
You know, just a constant stream, to the extent that she can even get the lies out. Sometimes it's just her talking in circles.
Said, we support you, Joe. We love you, Joe. And so he was able to do that in those
Who said that?
2.5 days
They
or
were
so
paid by the Biden campaign.
After the debate, he went to 4 states and engaged with supporters, engaged with American people,
What did she even
everyday
say?
people, heard directly from them. And let's not forget, when we landed in North Carolina, I think it was like 2 a.m. in the morning, he engaged with supporters there as well. So the president has been out there.
Why were people
He's
up
been
at 2
listening
a.m.?
to supporters. It's something that he loves to do, not just supporters, but American people.
Could
out
you
there.
imagine?
Everyday people.
Can you imagine
who
waking up, getting your kids up, let's go see Biden, 2 o'clock in the morning?
appreciate what he does, who wants to hear more from him, as you just stated, and got that opportunity to do just that. I think it matters that he's going to do an interview on Friday. I think it matters that he's going to go to Wisconsin and do that, right?
And do
Engage
that.
with everyday people. We're going to continue
Yeah,
to.
right.
Nothing has changed
It'll
in
be
that
tightly
regard.
controlled.
We're going to continue to be out there. He's going to be in Pennsylvania as well this weekend, as I just stated.
And one more. We're reporting that Hunter Biden has been in some meetings with senior advisors.
Yeah.
Why is the president's son involved?
So a couple of things I saw that reporting as I was coming out. So a couple of things there.
What does that have to do with the answer? I saw that reporting. Just answer the question.
Look, the president, as you know, is very close to his family. This is a holiday week, 4th of July. He spent time with his family, as you all know, and
And it's
reported
Bring Your Son to Work Day?
at Camp David. Hunter came back with him and walked with him into that meeting, that speech prep, and he ended up spending time with his dad and his family that night. That is basically what happened.
He's a
It
family
is a
man.
week where there's going to be more family members who are going to come to the White House. I'm sure you'll see some of them on 4th of July. Many more are expected to be here.
Running the country. It's a family affair.
Yeah.
Being in the White House. The question, though,
Yeah.
would be, is he participating in meetings with senior advisors?
What I can say is that he came back with his dad from Camp David. He walked him into the speech prep, and he was in the room.
And he's in the middle of writing a pardon for himself as we speak. We'll have that update for you later. All right.
Tell you he was in the room. Anything else coming out of that reporting I can't speak to, but I can say that, he's close to his family, which is not unusual. They were together at Camp David.
Very close.
They came back together. You're going to see a lot more family.
It's like, Corey, like sometimes, I'll bring my daughter out on the boat. We'll bring my kid out. She's 10 years old. And Corey will say, hey, why don't you drive the boat a little bit? And she'll drive the boat for a little bit. Same thing in the White House, It's like, Biden's the president, but not all the time. Sometimes he's like, hey, Hunter, take the wheel. You can drive.
This week. Okay.
Hey, Green, I want to go back to that question that Pelosi raised earlier today.
Sure.
Pelosi said it's a legitimate question to ask if this is an episode or this is a condition. Which one is it?
Well, what I can tell you is that
I'm about to lie to you.
he had a cold and a bad night. I would not.
Which
see
is why
this
we sent him to Waffle House after. Nothing makes any sense here.
as an episode. I would see this as what it was and what we believe it to be, which is it was a bad night. And he did, on top of
This
that,
is pathetic.
he had a cold. And that is the reality of the situation. That is the reality of what happened that night.
You've certainly seen the reporting out there that this
Has
is not
anyone asked about the Waffle House thing? Why did you send him to Waffle House? If he had a cold, again, he's like shaking hands, sniffing people.
just a standalone instance, that other people are saying that this has happened before. One, do you see these as legitimate questions? And also, are you being straight with the American people on this?
I see it as a legitimate question. I do, and I have said it is a fair question to ask. The president sees it as a legitimate question, and I think also the president saying, "I am not a young man."
Wait a second. This is the White House that was telling us 2 weeks ago that these questions are completely unfair, actually. And all of the video you're seeing of Biden failing, they're cheap fakes. That's what they said. They're cheap fakes. When the Robert Hur report came out, they didn't say Robert Hur told the truth. This is a legitimate question. They said Robert Hur is a scumbag. He should never have revealed this to the American people, and he's lying to you. That's what Kamala Harris said. It's inaccurate. It's not true. Joe Biden is sharp as ever. Everyone around. If Biden goes down here as a result of all of this chaos, all of these Democrats should be forced to wear the shame of their lies about him. They knew, and by the way, so did everybody in that press briefing. They knew as well, and they kept it from you. Not from you, but, there are people out there who didn't know. I don't know how that happened, but there are some, it turns out. Coming up, Chris Bedford will be here moments from now. Well, good afternoon to you. 3:34 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, Brett Tolman will join us at 4:30, former U.S. attorney. We talked to him about yesterday's big Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity and what it means for this election. Mary Rook will be here at 5 o'clock from the Daily Caller. We talked to her about Lady McBiden and her desperate hold on power. And then Scott Walker, the former governor of Wisconsin, that's a pivotal state, joins us as Democrats freak out over Joe Biden's lack of electability. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Just out, leaked internal Democrat polling numbers. The polling firm that put this together is called Open Labs. This is just posted online on X. And things are looking very bleak for Democrats here. Trump, post-debate, is now leading in New Mexico, in Virginia, in New Hampshire, in Wisconsin, Nebraska. It keeps going on and on. Michigan, Pennsylvania. You ready for the margin in Pennsylvania? 7.3%. Honestly, if these numbers hold, it is a landslide that perhaps hasn't been seen this century. These are wild numbers, and really, if these are Dem internal polling numbers, which it says they are, well, that's it. Somebody's leaking these as a basically an SOS flare. We have to get out of this now. We need to be rescued now. And how would you be rescued? By throwing Joe Biden overboard. That's the plan. They want to calm the seas. This is biblical. They want to calm the seas by throwing him overboard. And And Nancy Pelosi today, I was just playing audio for you. She is now calling for a cognitive test for Joe Biden, and she wants to establish whether or not this was merely an episode or a condition. For more on all of the developing angles to this, I want to bring in Chris Bedford now. He's a senior politics editor and D.C. correspondent for TheBlaze, and he's following all of this very closely. Chris, good to have you back with us, sir.
It's great to be here. And, if I remember my Bible correctly, Jonah was pretty insistent they toss him over. I think Joe Biden is clinging to the mast rail saying, no.
I'm not going anywhere. Yeah, and then, of course, and now what we get today, in addition to everything I just mentioned, Chris, now we get the additional report that the Biden family is really, there's no more pretext. They're taking over everything. Jill is refusing to go, and Hunter Biden is literally sitting in on the meetings today to help Joe run the country.
Yeah, he's the new senior advisor to the White House. The Bidens are finding out that they have less friends than they thought in D.C., and this has kind of always been the case. Biden was not backed by Barack Obama to be the presidential nominee in 2016. He wasn't even backed in 2020. He was kind of a compromise candidate because he didn't say all the far left things that his opponents said all the time. And then they threw in Kamala Harris to add some color, like literally, and try and paper it all over. And they had James Clyburn come down and say he's the right guy to do it. And then he kind of wrapped it up after his primary had gone so poorly. Today, you've got James Clyburn coming out and saying, well, by the way, this is a package deal. If you do get rid of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris is a ticket. And that's something that the Biden campaign has been kind of more clear-eyed on than a lot of Democrats who think this is just a fantasy football team. They can just swap out Biden and put in Gavin Newsom. That's not how it works. That's not how it works with the way that they'd even be able to have access to the campaign money. That's not how it's going to work with all the people in D.C. and in the Biden family who are very interested in not having that happen. It's just going to be a lot more complicated than they're ready for.
Well, there's an important element here, which is Democrats are now admitting pretty openly that their party is beholden to racism in this decision. There's no other way to look at it, because in a merit-based world, you just say, okay, who would be the best candidate to actually win the election? That is not the way the left is observing this right now. In fact, let me give you an example. There's a woman called Areva Martin. She's an attorney and California delegate for Biden for president. She was just on Stephen A. Smith's podcast. And she said if Democrats pass over Kamala Harris for a white man, they're going to, quote, blow up the party. Take a listen.
First of all, Stephen, who are we agreeing? There's a long list of Democrats. Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer. The list goes on and on and on. You've named 4 or 5 people. Where is their consensus? You've got to build consensus, and there is not consensus right now. If you pick a white man over Kamala Harris, black women, I can tell you this, we're going to walk away. We're going to blow the party up.
I mean, this is getting explicit. You have actual delegates for the party saying that skin color is the only factor here by which they'll judge this.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's the only factor by which Kamala Harris was hired. Joe Biden kind of boxed him in, himself in. He said, I'm hiring a black woman of color. And then they looked around at senior Democratic officials who were willing to actually take that job. And they had a perennial loser and conspiracy theorist down in Georgia. And then they had Kamala Harris, who literally came in last in the Democratic primary for president. So now they're stuck with her. And I do think that there was a lot of Democrat liberal elite hope at CNN, New York Times, and even in Washington, D.C., of people saying, well, no one actually likes Kamala Harris. No, she has actually no constituency. Even the people kind of paid to like her don't seem to like her. Her staff turns on her all the time. So we could just swap her out, right? And we're starting to hear now from Clyburn, from that delegate displayed. That's not the case.
No, not at all. In fact, just so people can hear it, here's Andrea Mitchell and James Clyburn today.
How would you feel if there is a decision for him to step down, if he decides that, and he has to decide that? Or if the party pressures him to do that? How would you feel if they worked around and tried to go around Kamala Harris because of her lack of high poll numbers and popularity and broadly based? Do you think it's hers to have if it is not his?
I will support her if he were to step aside, but I want to support her going forward at some time in the future. I want this ticket to continue to be Biden-Harris, and then we'll see what happens after the next election. No, this party should not in any way do anything to work around Ms. Harris. We should do everything we can to bolster her, whether it's in second place or at the top of the ticket.
Or at the top of the ticket. He's raising that eventuality now. So it seems to me, what I'm reading in all of this, is that there's a bit of a coronation going on as we speak. The Democrats are now shifting towards Kamala at this very moment, Chris Bedford. And can you give us your sense of why that is, both as a matter of identity politics, but as a matter of also political strategy?
Well, it's important. I wrote about this for my Blaze newsletter, is that the FEC rules basically mean that you can't just transfer Joe Biden, all the money the Biden campaign has raised, to a Gavin Newsom campaign. I think you're capped at around $2,000. You couldn't even collaborate with them above $37 million. You can't just transfer it to a PAC. I mean, the Biden campaign, if it was to say Gavin Newsom, who's kind of the favorite amongst Democratic elites, they could transfer that money to the Democratic National Committee, but then they would lose all the rates that are given to a candidate, the lowest rates possible for television and radio buys, and it would completely torpedo their strategy, their ability to actually get the advertising that they want with the money they have. And they need to be careful with that money now that Trump has actually caught up on the fundraising aspect. The only person that doesn't screw that up is Kamala Harris, because she's already on the ticket. They could actually protect that money and be able to continue with that ad spend that way. They'd be able to keep some of the machine. Now, I think a lot of people would lose their jobs because for the last 4 years, Kamala Harris has been treated very poorly by this White House. She's got a lot of gripes. I don't think you'll see senior people sticking around if she ended up becoming the nominee. But I think that reality is, after the panic is starting to set in, of they have to either go with her or go with him. And remember, they tried to make her really like a cool figure when she first was the vice president, when she was first elected. If you went down to the waterfront in Washington, D.C., there was some quilt that 1,000 liberal women knit together, a picture of her with a "Yes, we can" or "We did it, Joe." And it didn't work. She's so Hillary Clinton-esque that they just eventually stopped putting her on camera at all.
I have news for you.
It's a disaster.
I have news for you. That they didn't knit that quilt. That was made in China. There's no way they knitted that quilt. But you know, your point is right. You know, they've worked overtime to try and make people like a person who is deeply unlikable by her very nature. In fact, this week, the Biden campaign literally paid to have Kamala Harris featured on the BET Awards, and during it, she was talking to some comedian woman. And Kamala Harris said out loud, and somebody must have written this for her. "Yeah, girl, we out here in these streets." That was Kamala Harris. Can you imagine Kamala Harris ever saying that in real life? Like, what? She's the least authentic person I've ever encountered.
And the stupid thing about it is they weren't talking about the issues that were impacting a lot of black voters who've been left behind. The problems with high school graduation rates and college attendance, the problems with the amount of people that ended up in prison, the problems with crime, the problems with fatherless families. She was talking about white college professor liberal issues, Elizabeth Warren issues, intersectionality. Those are the things that she was speaking to, but she was using this kind of Hillary Clinton accent that she kind of suddenly came up with. It's so fake. It's so bad that I actually do think that the gently alive corpse of Joe Biden would do better than Kamala Harris against Donald Trump.
So, yeah, in real life. Well, CNN has this poll out today, the numbers, which, you know, the kind of thing that Kamala Harris is probably very excited about, because in the survey, they find that Trump is destroying Biden among registered voters nationwide with a 6-point lead right now. Trump is up 49-43. This is a post-debate poll. But they say that Kamala Harris, when polled, they say Kamala Harris is just 2 points back versus Trump. Just 2 points behind him. Right now, 47% of registered voters support Trump, 45% support Harris. I should note this is a registered voter poll, not a likely voter poll, which is much more useful. But it's the kind of thing that has Harris's people, to the extent that she has any, salivating. And it's got to put some more panic into the Biden campaign.
Yeah, it's a great news for them. I think it's the kind of thing that CNN wants to play up because CNN wants Biden gone, wants anyone in his place. But you have to remember that if you're not hanging out on Twitter watching all the hysterical video compilations of Harris, or if you're not listening to us here right now, you might miss just how awful of a politician she is, just how disliked she is. So right now she's got that name recognition that's going to push her ahead in these kind of just polls of registered voters, not even likely. But that is something that will start to change once she is defined by the GOP.
Yeah. And then this bet that I think it's hard for me to assess. I don't know if you can assess it either, but this bet that if they make Kamala Harris the nominee, that black voters are just going to obediently run in the direction of the Democrats. My gut tells me that that's wrong. My gut tells me that the shift we've seen among black voters towards Trump is not going to be meaningfully changed by Kamala Harris being at the top of that ticket. I don't know if I'm right, but I just think my instinct is that they're getting this wrong.
I think they're getting it wrong, and I think they know that they're getting it wrong. And the way that you can tell that is when she's the former senator from California, now she's the vice president from California.
Yeah.
When Gavin Newsom was facing a recall, when he was in trouble, they didn't send Kamala Harris to California. That's her home state. That's the liberal state. That's where they were to say, all right, let's get the black vice president out here to save the liberal guy. They didn't send her because they knew that she didn't poll well enough to actually help him. She might even have hurt him if she went up there. And it's not like she was busy fixing the border or anything else like that. So Democrats are just closing their eyes and doing wishful thinking. They finally have realized that Joe Biden is just as gone as we've been saying this whole time, and they don't know what to do.
Finally, back to Hunter Biden for a moment. How much of a gamble is it for them not to issue this pardon now? Every time I see Joe Biden, I'm like, I don't know how much longer this guy has. Like, don't you think they're kind of playing a bit of Russian roulette here by not just granting the pardon to Hunter Biden at this very moment?
Yeah, I guess this is probably an unpopular take politically, but I would definitely try to get my son out of trouble. I have the ability to right now. That's a risk they're taking. I mean, they've been stepping in it left and right with their family. To have that Vogue cover come right out after Democrats had the knives out for Joe Biden was a complete disaster. So maybe they're saying, hold on, don't let your son get you in any trouble right now. Let's just try to hold on to this bull for as long as we can. I get that. But at some point, a father's instinct's got to kick in, right?
Yeah, I mean, like this. If this past week hasn't proven to you that they lie about everything, I don't know what will. Obviously, they were lying about the pardon, so that's in the offing. But still, it's just wild.
It's like, who's going to change their vote on that?
What's that?
It's like, who's going to change their vote on that? Like, oh, well, I was going to vote for Joe Biden, but then he pardoned Hunter. Like, that's what pushed you over?
Yeah. He pardoned the smartest man Joe knows. Of course that guy deserves a pardon. Thank you. Chris Bedford, man. Really appreciate your time as always.
Thanks for having me.
It's Chris Bedford with TheBlaze. He's got a great newsletter over there. You should sign up for it. Andrew. Check 1 2. Mr. Andrew. Andrew's not there. Let's go to Chris. He's in Marshall, line 2. Chris, good afternoon, sir. You are on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Good afternoon, sir. I feel bad for Andrew, but I'll take his spot.
That's all right.
It was an epic weekend. We had a great time. Listen, since the left has a track record, an irrefutable established track record, that all of their histrionics are projection, we can look forward to Hunter and doctor, not a doctor, being drugged, screaming and kicking from the White House, refusing to leave on January 21st.
So here's the thing. I'm wondering who's going to be doing the dragging because although they may very well try and hold on to the very bloody end here, it seems like the left is already preparing to drag them out of that White House, Chris.
Are they taking volunteers?
To do the dragging? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir. I'm in.
Well, you may, Nancy Pelosi may want to join you because it sounds like today she's ready to drag them out of the White House. So we'll see. You are finally teamed up with Nancy Pelosi. I never thought that would happen, Chris.
Absolutely. And when they start eating their own, it's going to be absolutely epic. This is going to be an ish show to end all ish shows.
It sure seems like it. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, no, I think what Chris is talking about is already happening. I mean, it's they are eating themselves right now. Nick is in Purcellville. He's on line 3. Hello, Nick. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, good afternoon, Vince.
Hey there.
After Jill helped Joe take that 4-inch step, after the debate.
Yeah.
Little did we know that would be one small step for Joe, but one giant leap for Trump in the polls.
This is, Okay, that's first of all, that's genuinely hilarious. That's really good, and I'm jealous that you came up with it. Actually, that's a great line. That would have been a perfect radio tease. I could have used that, Nikki. But
you can use it. Also, when Jill told Joe, she put his hands together and clapped for him and said, "We're all going to the Waffle House." Well, Joe said, "What? No ice cream?" I answered all the answers. I won't. What a freaking waffle!
I gotta be honest. Your first one was much better, but this is that. But I like where you're headed. I don't want to. Suffocate your ingenuity. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate the call as always. It's funny. Yeah, what are they doing? Bringing him to Waffle House. He has a cold. Good. Let him cough on the people we paid to be in front of him. What is Kamala Harris thinking right now? To the extent that occurs ever. What is she up to? She's so excited. It's finally my big moment. She's been working every day for this. Not for us, for herself. Coming up, U.S. Attorney Brett Tolman will be with us. He'll react to the big Supreme Court decision yesterday. That decision said Joe Biden is a tyrant. So, of course, the left said, I think they mean Trump. It's ahead.